I'm Kerry, this is Dory, and we are Dog on the Plot. And 1 year ago today, we released our first ever YouTube video. So to celebrate the occasion, I'm doing something a little bit different this week, and I'm offering you my 8 top tips for starting a gardening YouTube channel. So number one is know your why. And this is the kind of fluffy tip that I wouldn't normally like, but I actually think it's really important. And it's not to say that there are good whys or bad whys. Your why will be individual to you, but it's something that you can come back to when things aren't going quite so well, or you get a little bit disheartened. Maybe you're losing more subscribers than you're gaining. Maybe you put a lot of effort into a video and it doesn't do very well. And if you can go back to your why and remember, the reason that you're doing this in the first place, it can be really helpful in keeping you motivated. For instance, Claire from The Veg Plot Thickens, her why was that she just wanted to share the new growing space that she was developing with her family, who couldn't necessarily travel to see the space. And that's a really nice, wholesome why. And she's told me that every time somebody watches her channel that isn't her family, it's like this real joy that other people could be interested and want to share in her journey. And that was really part of my why, I think. I started filming from the first day that I got the plot, and I really wanted to document the whole journey. I wanted to be able to come back and see the highs and the lows and how far I'd come. And you don't get that with just taking pictures or even taking moving images, because when you're shaping your experiences into a narrative for the film, then you're sharing thoughts and feelings, and to look back at those is often a lot more interesting and rewarding than is just some static stills of a crop of potatoes or whatever. Now, obviously I could make those videos without having to make them public on YouTube. So there's more to my why than that. In part, it was because I'd been, I'm a teacher by trade. So I like telling people what I think and trying to inspire and teach people. So it's kind of my thing anyway. And I'd been making videos because during lockdown and COVID, I had to make videos for my students, my lectures and classes. And it made me realize that I could do it. And actually, I quite enjoyed it. It is a creative process. I knew I was getting my plot for a couple of months, and I was watching lots of other YouTubers, and I just really felt that I wanted to be a part of that too. And I guess that's my why. Now, your reason might be that you want to be the next Charles Dowding or Hugh Richards, which, go for it. But remember, they have a lot of years behind them. They've been on YouTube for an awfully long time. I would say keep your why pretty realistic to start with. One of the whys that I really like is from Nanou Grinch at plot number 9. And I hope they don't mind me sharing this, but they are an allotment plot that doesn't have much of a community. And they were saying that what they find on YouTube is the community that they're missing on their actual allotment site. I think that's a really nice why. And we'll talk a bit more about YouTube community in a later tip. So tip number 2 is set a goal. And I promise that these tips do get more exciting than this. But actually, I think if I hadn't set a goal this last year, I don't know that I would still be doing it now. There were absolutely 2, maybe 3 points last year where I just thought, why am I doing this? Why am I putting this extra pressure on myself to do this work each week? And it was only because I'd set the goal of I wanted to do this for a full year, and I made myself accountable because I told you guys that I was going to do it for a full year. It was only because I'd made that promise to myself and you that I continued doing it. And I'm glad I did, but I needed that goal to kind of get me through those little bits where I felt slightly demotivated or just really busy. I actually made a goal before that one, and it was to record 3 videos and decide whether I wanted to publish them on YouTube or not. So I actually made 3 videos starting on the 15th of December, which was my first day on the plot. I made my first video then, but I made 2 more after that before I released that first one on the 4th of January. And I actually think this is quite a good tip because it gave me an opportunity to sort of get over the initial sort of fears, to feel that I had something that I did think was worth putting out when I did. And when I did, it meant that I had a little bit of momentum because I had 3 videos ready to go and I could put them out in quite quick succession. And yeah, start a little bit of momentum for the channel and take the pressure off for creating then that 4th video, which was the video where I made the promise to do YouTube for a full year. I also had a secret goal, and that was to reach 1,000 subscribers in that 1 year. And I did that at the 10-month mark, which was great. And I was really pleased that I did that. And again, that was something that was motivating. I don't necessarily think a number of subscribers needs to be your goal, and that might not align with your why anyway. But it was certainly something, you know, it was nice to aim for. So I've met my goals. I met my goals this year. And I suppose the question now is what's next for Dog on the Plot? One of the things I think about setting a goal is to consider what's sustainable. So you may have a goal to put out a video once per week or something like that. And it might turn out that actually that's not really sustainable with having, like me, a full-time job. This is something that I've got to consider coming into 2024 now. But we'll talk more about what's next for the channel at the end of the video. Tip number 3 then is just start, or start before you're ready. I was not ready. I didn't even have a name. I was still using my Instagram name. And I really tried to find a name before I wanted to launch, but in the end, it was just an obstacle that was stopping me from getting started. And I don't think that's what you want. I could change my name at episode 10, I think. It's fine. I came down here. I pressed record. I did not even have the phone the right way around. Yeah, I totally wasn't ready. But it got me started. And then I started to learn. And I think that's the key. You can do all the prep that you might like, but until you're actually sitting here looking at the little red light, you don't really know what it is that you're preparing for. It's very much a learn on the job, trial and error type of thing. So don't let things like not having the exact right name, not having the equipment, or, you know, I just came down here with my phone and held it. Don't let things like knowing what editing software to use or things like that stop you. That very first video I edited just using an app that I found on the phone, and it was fine. You know, it got me started. It got me releasing those first few videos, and then I could improve from there. And although it can be a bit cringy to go back and look at your very first episode, it also demonstrates to you how far you've come and how much you've learned about the whole process of putting videos together. So basically, don't let little things hold you back. If you've decided that this is what you want to do, you've got your why, then just hit record, get started, and see what happens. So number 4 is find your style. And this is about the form that your video takes and the way that you put yourself across in the videos, the kind of content that you are producing. And I mean, you hear this thing, don't you? Innovate, don't imitate. Forget that. There are only so many ways to do a gardening vlog. So do imitate, find the people that you like to watch and think about how they do things and how you would want to replicate that in your videos. It's okay to be inspired by other YouTubers. So for instance, for me, some of the big inspirations, I think you can probably guess, were Jessie at Plot 37, but also Katrina at Homegrown Garden, and Mayu at Spuds and Roses, and some of the smaller channels as well that I really like the way that the videos were put together in terms of a longer form, and also sort of the variety of things that were within the videos. And that's what I wanted to kind of emulate in my channel. Now, those channels probably appealed to me in part because they were other women gardening, and also I like the way in which they tended to tell a story over a period of time. You may be more attracted to the kinds of videos, more of the OG sort of videos, where it's more of a kind of how-to tutorial, which is absolutely fine, but you find your style, and actually very quickly it becomes your style. You start doing things that were more unique to your channel. For instance, I mean, I have the dog wherever she's gone. I have bits of dog walking within my videos, bits of sort of well-being-y nature type interludes in my videos. We tend to do things, a variety of things over a period of time. So we do some cooking, we're in different spaces. So we've got my home garden, we've got the allotment, we've got the front garden, we've got the kitchen. Sometimes we're at Liam's, sometimes we're in the Peak District, often we're on the park. And those things have become sort of what's particular to my channel, and is a bit different from other people. And I think this is something to remember as well, is that we can all be different and we can do different things. There are enough YouTube subscribers to go around, you know, we don't all have to be doing the same thing. This is probably also a good point to make clear that what I'm offering in this video is not ways to optimize your channel. That comes later, and I wouldn't get too caught up in thinking about that early on. I think what you want to do from the start is start making content that you feel comfortable with and you like. You can tweak around the edges later on for the algorithm, but I think if you start producing videos for the algorithm, then that's not a great way to begin your YouTube journey. So maybe this time next year, I'll be doing a video on how to optimize your YouTube channel. But for now, we're just starting out. And the important thing is to make the thing that you want to watch. Tip number 5 is be yourself. And this extends from the last one, in that part of what your style will be you, okay? So it's really important. In fact, a better way of putting this tip might be, don't be something that you're not. It might be tempting to pretend you know anything and everything about gardening, but actually you're just a beginner. If you do know everything and anything about gardening, then crack on. But I think for most of us, being ourselves is about not pretending that we know more than we do, to be quite upfront that whatever we are talking about has a source, and it's not necessarily our own experience, but something that we might have seen somebody else do or read in a book. This is why quite often I use the word apparently. This is apparently how you sow sweet peas. This is apparently how you grow kale. So I think just, yeah, remembering that the best that you can be is who you actually are, and try not to be something that you're not. Tip number 6 is correct bad habits. Now, one of my biggest regrets on the channel is that I didn't speak to camera until about 5 months into my channel. I was always speaking to my face and not to the camera. And it took 2 people, so Allie from The Right Pair Plot and Claire from Growing Plotty, to say to me, please talk to the camera. And it wasn't that I hadn't noticed that I wasn't doing it. I knew it, but I kind of thought, oh, it doesn't really matter, does it? But it turned out it did matter, and it probably annoyed people quite a lot. So if you're one of the people who started following me in those first few months and stuck with me, thank you. Thank you for sticking with me, even though I just talked to myself and not you for all that time. So speaking to camera is a good one. It's a common one to remember. But there are other bad habits that you might have, and I have, for instance, umming and ahhing. I was really trying not to then. Creating dead air, shaky camera work, and whizzing the camera around too quickly and things like that. So it's looking out for those things and correcting them as soon as you can. And I think recognizing that this is all a process of improvement. You don't have to be perfect from day one, but you do have to kind of look out for the things that you tend to do quite often, then try and correct those. But what I would say is that, going back to the previous tip, if you are being yourself, if you are being genuine, then people will forgive an awful lot, okay? You can get away with a lot of ums and ahs if you are being yourself on camera. So my penultimate tip is around editing, and I've said learn to edit, but it's more
get to grips with editing and expect to have to do at least some level of editing. And it's kind of up to you how far you want to take this. I edit my videos quite a lot because part of what I enjoy about making videos, part of my why, is that creativity, and I like them to kind of have that sort of narrative and a flow that goes through, and you have to edit quite extensively in order to get that kind of coherence into the video. But you don't need to do that. You can do a pretty light edit, and especially if you're pretty good at just speaking to camera and not mixing up your words or stumbling over your words. I know that Clare at the Veg Plot Thickens, she edits on a phone, just using an app, and finds that enjoyable and sustainable, which we were talking about before, how to make things sustainable for you. For me, I do use software. It's free software though. I use Lightworks. It's fiddly, it's a little bit buggy. It's not necessarily that I'm recommending it, but it is free. I know that other YouTubers use different kinds of platforms, and I do think there is some merit in trying a few different ones before you settle on actually learning something, because I do feel now like I kind of know how to use Lightworks now, but that means I'm a bit committed to it because I don't have necessarily the time or inclination to learn a whole other program. At some point I will, I think, because I would like a little bit more functionality. I tend to edit in the evenings or early morning, in part because it means it's not taking time out of my gardening day, you know, it's not daylight hours. Also, I work during the week, so this is the only time really I get to edit. It's not so bad because it stops me just sitting and watching the TV all night, but I think if you've got other commitments in your life, kids or shift work or whatever it might be, that's something to bear in mind, is where are you going to fit in the editing, because actually the filming doesn't take very long at all. I mean, you're doing all the things that you're filming anyway. It's the editing which is really the add-on in terms of time and effort. And editing isn't the only technology involved, so you need something to record on. I just use my phone. You need something for the camera to rest on, and I had a little tripod that I broke, and I've just invested in a gimbal. I've just invested in a mic. I should have done that way earlier, way earlier than a year in, but I have got a mic now, and this was the first video with the mic. You need a laptop if you're going to run editing software. So there are investments in those sorts of things as well. So it's economic as well as time and effort in the editing. Other things, of course, is creating your thumbnail, if you want any kind of graphics or visuals within your videos as well. I tend to use Canva for that. So although it might feel like point and shoot and you've got a YouTube video, actually there's a lot that goes on in the background. And I guess my tip 7 is really just knowing that those are the sorts of things that you're going to have to get to grips with. So my final tip, tip 8, is to interact. And this is about being part of the YouTube community. So absolutely, when somebody comments on your videos, be sure to comment back, especially in the early days. I can appreciate for people who have huge channels that might not be possible, but when you are starting out, it is absolutely possible. So engage with people in that space, but go beyond your own channel as well. Watch other people's channels, comment, like, subscribe, do all of those good things that you would hope that they would do back to you. But again, keep it genuine. I'm going to recommend a video for you to watch at the end that is kind of the next steps on from these, and I think will be really helpful to you if you're thinking of starting a channel. But one of the points in that video was about not going into other people's comment sections and things and trying to promote yourself. Do not do that, absolutely not. But talk to other people, get to know them, interact with them. If you get invited on lives, absolutely do it. I've only just started doing that, and it is so much fun, and it's a real boost to your channel as well. But beside from that, it's just really great to feel a part of this community of people who are all so interested in gardening and want to share their experiences and what they learn.
And I think this takes us full circle right back to tip 1, which was know your why, because I think once you get started, when you're so far in, your why changes. And I think for a lot of us, the why becomes being in the community, being part of the community. And you don't have to be a vlogger to do that. You can be a viewer. And in fact, one of the most prominent members of this YouTube gardening community is Allie from My Rusty Garden. And she makes videos too, but she is so active on everybody's comments and so supportive of new YouTubers. I guarantee if you start a YouTube channel, Allie will be there to support you. And I hope I will be there too, and other YouTubers will support you, because this isn't competitive. It's not about, as I was saying earlier, there are subscribers enough for us all. It's really about supporting one another. So that's my final tip. Don't think that your videos are just out there in isolation. They enter into this space as part of a pre-existing community, and you want to be involved with it as much as possible. Honestly, it is the best thing about doing this.
So those are my top tips for starting a YouTube channel, and I've got some bonus for you, so don't go away just yet. But just to say, it felt a little bit presumptuous to kind of only have a year behind me and make a video like this. But what I would say is that the experience is really fresh in my mind, and I hope that if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel, that you got something from this video. And if you're a long-term viewer and you're wondering, what the hell is this? Where's the normal vlogging? At least I hope that you got a kind of behind the scenes look. And all those little jobs that you've seen me doing as we're going through, don't worry, they'll be in next week's vlog. Now, talking about next week, and I mentioned the future of Dog on the Plot earlier in the video. What to say? I made 70 videos this year. I released 70 videos on YouTube this year, and that's a lot. And I've been talking in the video about what is and isn't sustainable, and actually that's not sustainable for me. So something is going to have to change with Dog on the Plot, although I'm not quite sure what yet. And yeah, don't expect anything radically to change very soon, but something has got to give. So the videos have got to become shorter or less frequent, or I think what will probably happen is things will just become a little bit more ad hoc, and I won't be releasing a video every Wednesday, every week in the way that I have for the last few months. So that's the future of Dog on the Plot, a kind of ... We'll see what happens next. The other thing I wanted to do to end is give a shout out to a couple of new channels, which only seems in keeping with tip 8, but also the whole video. And I want to give a shout out to people who have released their very first video this week. And one of those people is Denise at Let's Grow Home. And I've been talking with Denise a bit on Instagram for a while, and she's been telling me that she's building up the courage to do the first video, and she did it this week. So go and have a look at her very first video and give her a like and subscribe. And the second one is not a gardening channel, but it's my nephew's channel. He is following the footsteps of his aunt, and he had to wait till he was 10 years old. That was my sister's rule, wait until you're 10 and then he could start YouTubing. And it is a Minecraft YouTube, but it's very educational, and it's about nature, and it's about environment and biodiversity and climate change. So I think it might be up your street, and it's only 2 minutes long, and it's so cute. So I will link both of those videos in the description below. And the other thing I promised in the video was a follow-on video from another YouTuber, which I feel is like the next stage of what I've been presenting here today. It's from JB, Naturally JB, and he only released it a couple of weeks ago. I think it was just before Christmas. It is an excellent video. It is the video that I wish I had watched before I started vlogging. So I'm going to link that one below. So do go check that one out. I guarantee you will find so much useful information in there. So my final bonus tip to end the video is make sure it's fun. Okay, now there will be times where it feels like a bit of a chore. That's kind of inevitable. But if it starts feeling like that all the time, then you need to rethink what you're doing. And I know, I think it was Nigel of Muddy Boots in Danny from the Grapevine Gardens live last week said,
if it starts to become something that is onerous, then leave it. Do the gardening. The gardening is the important thing. And I thought that was really useful thing to remember. I think some of us vloggers, we become caught up in the vlogging process, and the gardening always takes a back seat to doing the vlogging. So if you find yourself getting into a situation like that, I would say give the vlogging a break. For me, I'm still hugely enjoying this process. I love the creativity of producing the videos, and actually it's the videos that often make me do the jobs outside that I might otherwise put off, even more than I normally put them off. Speaking of which, what I'm doing right now is sowing some chilies. So if you're interested in my technique for sowing chilies and that this looks weird to you, what is going on here, catch me next week. I'm Kerry, this has been Dog on the Plot.